All right. Looks like we're in business. Here we go. It's the game plan. Week 16 is upon us. It's a wild thing. Week 16. That's right. We've got this one and one more to go. And then we'll surely be doing some playoff stuff. But the process, the strategy show, that's not what it's called either. The game plan show, Ben, uh, we'll be done and over with. So here we go, man. 12
Yeah.
games, 13 games on Yahoo, though, if you're playing there, where you have the Chiefs Seattle game, which I kind of like on a slate like this. It doesn't have a whole lot of options.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, 12 games, but I guess it's just, partly that time of year. It's cold. There's a lot of teams that are, banged up, mailing it in. The totals have really dropped. But we'll see. Yeah, the year's flown by. It's crazy. Obviously for college, we're in bowl season. It's almost the playoffs for NFL. But yeah, we're gonna finish up strong here.
That's right. Glad to have all you guys with us. It's going to be a good show. Got a little extra time on our hands just to make sure we get through all of this. Ben, make sure to get that tweet out there so we can let
Let's
everybody know that doesn't already know.
let's do
Um,
it. Let me get to Twitter. All right. Yep.
uh,
I'm ready to rock.
someone Chris Haynes yesterday tweeted, source, LeBron and Anthony Davis met for a post-game dinner last night in LA with the Lakers and in driver's seat to pair the stars together, with Lakers in the driver's seat. And I quote tweeted, I said they'd be a dominant force for 17 games a season, right?
Mhm.
Obviously joking, a joke about Anthony Davis, this and that. So I just see this now, someone named LB23 underscore King James with the handle at LBJ Kyrie 25 tweets, "You are not dominate for 5 seconds a day. So why the hell would anyone listen to your BS assessment of LBJ and AD or any NBA players or sports person? You see what's not going to happen is listening to BS coming from online losers and sports talk
Oh wow.
nobodies. You spewing BS is toxic."
He got all those characters in. That's hopefully he's watching. If he is, hit that like button. We appreciate that. But yeah, no, that's I'm gonna have to go investigate that. That seems like quality stuff right there.
You should, and you're the best online Twitter sleuth.
Love
So,
it.
from LBJ23 underscore King James at LBJ Kyrie 25, you think he likes LeBron James?
Just a little bit. Yeah, man.
Oh,
Alrighty
jeez.
then.
That's too good. Chadwick Robinson says, "What a troll." I don't think this dude's trolling. I think he's just one of these
There's
guys that gets a hard on for a player and then rides it till the wheels fall off. Um, no pun intended there. All right, let's keep it going, Ben. Let's jump right into it. We've got 12 games. If we can get to the 13th game, I'd be all right with that. KC and Seattle. As I mentioned to you before the show started, Seattle 25-6-1 straight up in primetime spots, that's a wild number. So yeah, we'll get to that as well. Let's go and kick it off with these 1 p.m. games. Indianapolis, New York Giants. When you look at the spreads today, Ben, you have two teams in the Rams and Patriots that are heavier favorites than the Colts. They're double digit home favorites. 10 points here, 48.5 point total. Giants coming off a game where they were blanked against the Titans. Colts coming off a game where they blanked the Cowboys. So if this trend continues, we could see another dominant performance from Indianapolis. Although I did see one thing that I wasn't particularly fond of, and that was that although T.Y. Hilton is going to tough it out or intends on toughing it out, he is not 100%. It does worry me a little bit in a game that they should win handily regardless.
Yeah, this is we're gonna get into all of it, but the theme of the week is trying to balance stuff that we really don't know. There are teams like the Colts, they need this game. Obviously, the Titans won last week. They're going to be on a collision course next week. But you just said it. Can they get by without, not that he's not going to play, but if they get up, 12, say a couple scores early, do they lean on Marlon Mack? Do they say, you know what, let's limit Ty and make sure he's as healthy as he can be for week 17 when we're really going to need him? That's a worry. Now, he is at home. We talk all the time. Just domination in the dome for him. So I do have some shares when I used luck. But at the same time, I have some Marlon Mack shares where maybe they do just lean on that ground game. I think they can control this game in multiple different facets if they want to.
Look, I'm with you, and I'm still gonna have some T.Y. Hilton. It's very tough to ignore him in this spot, in this dome. Uh, I mentioned on yesterday's SiriusXM show, Awesemo Radio, by the way, if you want to check it out on SiriusXM Fantasy. Ben joins me every Saturday, has been for some college football bowl talk, and he crushes it. How many passes did Army finish with?
Only 4. They went
You nailed it. Oh
Yeah.
my God. You set the over-under at 4.5.
How absurd is that? 70.
Amazing.
Yeah. 600 yards rushing.
You could not have got that any more accurate. Seriously, you could not have
that was a good one. But no, that's a ton of fun. Obviously, the Sirius show is great.
Yeah, so we do a lot of NFL breakdown, but a lot more stuff on there too, especially college football talk. But I mentioned yesterday, T.Y. Hilton, it feels like he's been snubbed on so many levels this year, just whether it be Pro Bowl, which, he doesn't make it, fine, whatever, who cares about that? But just in terms of recognition, he's had a really good season for somebody that played hobbled in 2 or maybe more games. Missed a game or might have been 2 games, still has almost 1,100 yards. Like, he's just, I don't know. He's been super impressive. And at home, he's got 5 of his 6 touchdowns have come at home. 628 of 1,071 yards have come at home. And it's been an outstanding year for a guy that hasn't even been at 100%. So what's to say that he can't put up more big numbers? He's been questionable like every week for the past 3 or 4 weeks anyway, It feels. I will still have some Hilton here. Last week we talked about it being a difficult matchup for Ebron, where we expected them to go away from him. They did, and I finished with 1 reception on 3 targets for 8 yards. I do have interest here, though. Not the greatest tight end position as we've been seeing. So Ebron and Hilton to me are both very much in play because I do like Andrew Luck, but I understand the Marlon Mack call as well. Him coming off a very, very solid game against the Dallas Cowboys. But I think I'm targeting the passing attack more than the ground game here.
Yeah, no, I see no problem with that. Obviously, the Colts passing attack is none that's easy to break down, but Ebron and Hilton take such a large target share. I don't really see the need to reach beyond that. You can pair them up. You can use Luck with either of them. I think it's pretty much there. It's just mixing and matching with what you want. And you're right. You bring up a good point. I just want to second it. T.Y. Hilton, it's not like he got hurt last week and now he's less than 100%. He's been hurt and he's been performing. So I worry a lot less about that than someone who may have gotten nicked up and we don't know the extent that we haven't seen him play with it.
Absolutely. Like, even last week, you still got, I'm not saying this is fantastic, but 5 for 85 from Hilton, 9 for 199 the week before, right? Like, the guy's still a stud. So
it would have been more last week too. They just didn't need him.
Right, 100%. Yeah, no question. And look, yes, there have been times where Eric Ebron has taken over and been the focal point offensively in the passing game. But let's make no mistakes about it. T.Y. Hilton is still Andrew Luck's main man.
Yeah, no, I think that's clear. Flipping to the other side real quick. Please. I don't have, the Colts defense has been impressive. I think you can look, obviously Saquon, he's got a price drop. He's sub 8K. There's a lot of backs up there. So can you play him? Of course you can, but he's not my priority. And then Evan Ingram somehow sucks me in once again. I know this will end poorly, but he is getting a boatload of targets. It's inside. I don't mind using him if you want to pay a little down at tight end.
Yeah, it's doable. I'm actually, if I'm going to go off the board here, it's going to be with Sterling Shepard. Okay. It's been a brutal stretch for Shepard, no question. Like, even with Odell Beckham out, I get it. But he's still seen 6 or more targets in 4 straight games, right? Coming off of that ugly shutout or you blowout shutout against Tennessee last week, still saw 9 targets. Like, I think it's only a matter of time before Shepard has himself a decent game, and he is discounted. You're getting him cheap. He's still not a terrible player. We've seen him have some big games, and from what we're seeing, he's going to play lined up outside at times. So while he's definitely a slot guy and has always been, some outside work probably won't hurt him. The only concern is, can they protect Eli enough to even get the ball out of his hands? But I definitely get the Ingram call. I think from an ownership standpoint, not even sure how important it's going to be on this slate, but I expect Shepard to be, very, very, very underowned and just overlooked entirely. I wanted to say one thing before we move on here, not even about this game specifically, but last week the reason I had success, particularly on the all day Sunday slate, was because, and this doesn't always work, you get it wrong sometimes, was because I got the right top tier running back. I went away from Barkley and Elliott and went heavy on Todd Gurley. I think on Yahoo I played 10 of 10 because you can only play 10 lineups. 10 of 10 with Todd Gurley. And despite him missing some time in that game, getting hurt, he still had a very solid game. Outproduced Barkley, outproduced Mac, or outproduced who am I talking about?
Zeke.
I don't even remember now. Yeah, Zeke. Thank you. I think that you could see some of that again today, Ben, where we don't know what Gurley's status is, but you have Barkley, Kamara, Elliott, McCaffrey, and Gurley. We'll get to who I like most here, and of course you as well. But I do think it's going to be important to get this guy, maybe two of them right, and not hit that landmine, because pretty much if you went heavy on Barkley last week and took a 9 fantasy point game from him, you were in a very, very early hole that's hard to dig out of. And I think the same remains even for Zeke. Sure, he didn't kill you at 19.8, but it wasn't enough to put you over that hump to big money either.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're at a situation these days, the top end running backs, they're all viable, but you got to try to work through it because some of the upside that some of them contain are just so massive, and they are all garner ownership to the point where if you're left out in the cold, it's a really steep uphill climb if you miss a 35-pointer. So we'll break through. Obviously, you're always going to have to embrace a little of it. Like for me, we'll get to the games, but Christian McCaffrey is towards the bottom of my list. There's some guys I like more than him, and I'll have to live with that. Can he go off? Yeah, he can, but you can't play all 6 of these top end guys and get overweight. It's just not possible. So yeah,
I'm with you, by the way.
Yep. So we'll see as we get through. But Gurley's really interesting because I don't even know if he's going to play, and it's in a late game. That's the importance of having flex. You want your late guys in that flex position where you can move around.
Absolutely. And I guess the question here is, we'll move on in just a second, but this is kind of important. There's still massive favorites here. They're still 14.5 points, slate high, 14.5 point favorites. The Cardinals still have a sub 15 point implied total. Like, do you really need to play Gurley here? Normally you'd say no, but we'll get to that game because there's a lot to talk about there, and I don't want to spoil it all now. Let's go move in order here, though, and we'll get to that one later. Philadelphia hosting the Houston Texans. The Eagles had a 2.5% chance of making the playoffs prior to Sunday Night Football last week. That number shot up to 43% after the win, and I'm assuming since the Redskins lost, it's come even higher for that wild card spot. So whereas it looked like the Eagles would be playing for nothing before last week's game kicked off, Jared Goff continued to play poorly, and the team continued to struggle defensively, and they lost that game at home. So the Eagles do have something to play for. Yes, I take this into consideration for fantasy purposes. I think all the information that you can take into consideration matters here. And now that the Philadelphia Eagles have a purpose to play, I'm not as concerned. They were 2.5 point favorites. Now they're only 1 point favorites at home, which I think is a lot more reasonable against a good Texans team. 46.5 point total. Nick Foles at the helm, and DeAndre Hopkins is expected to play, but it doesn't seem like he's at 100%. So a lot of moving pieces here, Ben. Let's break them down, starting with the Eagles.
Yeah, it's a tough game, big game for both teams. Obviously, the Eagles need it to get in. The Texans are fighting for a bye. I don't love it from a fantasy side. I think this game is kind of a grind it out. I like the under. So I don't have much. This is your home account, obviously. Ertz is up there. He's always a great option. Foles, I'm sure we'll look to him. But all in all, it's really not an offense that I attacked. So I'm going to just pass it right back to you. Am I missing out on like an Alshon or a Josh Adams? I didn't see much there.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. And by the way, Adam Schefter a few minutes ago tweeted, unless Rams running back Todd Gurley has a setback in pregame warmups, the team is planning for him to play versus the Cardinals. Rams think he has felt better as the week has progressed. So there you have it.
Okay.
Still seems sketchy, but we'll get to that and cover it in depth towards the end of the show. With the Eagles, the one thing I find interesting, and the one guy that I will have interest in because of his price point and because I've always harped on how talented he is and he needs to get more work, is Alshon Jeffrey. The one thing that you notice in the difference between Foles and Wentz when they've played is, mind you, Jeffrey wasn't healthy or on the field for the first two games that Wentz missed and Foles started this year, but he has plenty of chemistry and plenty of time playing with Foles last year. The one difference, and you'll see it going back to any game they've played, is that Foles, unlike Wentz, is not afraid to throw those 50-50 balls, those one-on-one contested balls to Alshon Jeffrey, which that's what he's best at coming down with, right? We saw him come down with two big 50-50 balls last week, finished with 8 receptions on 8 targets for 160 yards. I do love that Nick Foles is willing to target him in tough spots and say, listen, you're my guy, come down with this football. He's bigger than any corner he's going to be matched up against. So I think this is an interesting spot for Jeffrey, who you're getting at a very reasonable price point. And I think that's one of the biggest things here is you look at his salary and you're not overpaying for a guy that does have 2 touchdown upside. Am I saying it's happening? No, of course not. That's silly. But I think he is the type of guy that can absolutely give you those type of numbers. Has easy 100+ yard, 2 touchdown, or even 1 touchdown we'll take. He's $17 on Yahoo. He's $5,300 on DraftKings. Alshon Jeffrey on FanDuel is $6,300. So he is discounted. And then I never have an issue with Ertz just because, number one, the Texans have struggled against tight ends this year. It's been one significant weakness. They're allowing the 5th most passing or receiving yards per game to the position. They rank 29th in DVOA according to Football Outsiders. So those would be the 2 spots I'm interested in here. And then on the other side, I definitely like this game more than you do. I could see it disappointing, but I still have interest. Deshaun Watson, the Eagles have really struggled against these mobile quarterbacks. It's happened quite often. You lose contain, and when they scramble out of the pocket, it's just the Eagles' coverage breaks down with a secondary that's been in shambles since midseason. So, yeah, I have interest there, and if I'm playing him, I'm likely going to pair him with some DeAndre Hopkins. Are these guys priority plays for me, Ben? No, but I could if I saw Jeffrey or Ertz or Hopkins or Watson at the top of the tournament winning lineups this week, I really wouldn't be surprised for the reasons that I just pointed out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the way you laid that out, especially with Alshon. That's a good point. He is that kind of guy. Give him chances. I may add some. The one thing I will say, and again, kind of like you said, is this a priority? No. If you're in a big jam, I think the Eagles defense at 2,100 is viable. That's really low. And you know what? They can still get pressure up the middle. Deshaun Watson, I agree. He's certainly going to make some plays, but he's going to also make some mistakes. That's really what he kind of does. So at 2,100, the Texans can be effective and your defense can still get there. If you're looking for a really cheap punt, on the Texan side, for me, I don't have much. You can always go Watson to Hopkins. We don't know where he's at. I was surprised that he was even, not that he's close to sitting, but that at early this morning, he was still somewhat of a question mark. It looks like he's going to play, but I do worry how close to 100% Hopkins is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, actually. And it's a very, very, very cheap play. DraftKings, Yahoo, which, yeah, we will be talking Yahoo salaries just because some of the contests they're running are great and well worth getting into. I do have the Eagles at minimum salary there at 2,100 on DraftKings. I think it's a great point, Ben. And it's a spot where, look, can they rack up sacks? Absolutely. This defense was swarming last week. And they do have one of the best front sevens. They have one of the best pass rushes in the league. When everything's working, when Fletcher Cox looks like he did last week, it's a very tough team or defense to stop. The big thing is how weak their secondary is, but they've looked better. Vontae Maddox has looked good. So I don't think that's a crazy call at all. Is it risky? No question.
Yep.
But so are a lot of defenses. It's a volatile position, and at this cheap, all it takes is one pick six to the house, or a scoop on a fumble to the house, a scoop and score, and you're good. So I like it. I like it in tournaments only, of course. But
Yep.
yeah. All right, you want to move on here?
Yeah, let's keep it moving. Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about Miami and Jacksonville, if you want. Uh, the, Miami 3.5. Yeah, it's bad. 3.5-point favorites, a 38.5-point total. I feel like this should have been a Saturday night football game, judging on how those went. Frank Gore's out for the year. Kalen Ballage, the guy I got in a lot of my dynasty leagues, so I was pretty stoked about that. Had that 75-yard touchdown run, 12 for 123, and a touchdown on the day. And with the interesting thing about that is that Kenyon Drake, finished with one attempt and 3 receptions on 3 targets for 28 yards. I don't know. I don't know how much of this was because he was dealing with a shoulder injury or what, but Kalen Ballage carried the bulk of that, or carried the load in that game. So after Frank Gore went down.
Yeah, is this? I don't know what to make of this because this guy obviously was effective last week.
I have no idea.
Is he getting first crack? It seems all indications. It seems like he is.
It does,
and that's confusing. Obviously, I feel like when I saw Gore go down, my first thought was, "Oh, Kenyon Drake. Maybe I'll finally get him right." Which apparently
they hate Kenyon Drake in the run game, man. Boy, did they dislike him.
I know. I don't know what exactly the problem is, but I'm going to look to a very cheap running back who obviously I'm sure the Dolphins, they want to get him some reps, want to get him some looks, and he was very effective last week. This game, I don't have anything to say about Jacksonville. I have zero interest. The Dolphins defense is my favorite defense of the week. Cowboys up there too, but the Dolphins really are in a good spot. And I'm going to use, some of the cheap running back. And if you want Kenny Stills, you can mention him. It's the same story every week. He's got 25-point upside. He's got a 0 floor. He's got a tough matchup. It's not going to be popular. So I sprinkled pretty lightly, but I think like most, this isn't a game that I have a ton of.
Me neither. If anything, I think I'll sprinkle in some Kalen Ballage. Look, this is, to me, it's very simple. He's really, really cheap, and that's what it comes down to. And this is a Jacksonville team that's just been absolutely shit on by opposing offenses recently, whether they're good or bad. Look, yes, I consider 16 points from Josh Johnson getting shit on, okay? I'm just telling you right now.
Yep.
Right. As I should.
Yep.
They had no business allowing him, on the road to do that to them. And you could say whatever you want. Oh, it's 16 points in the NFL. Yeah, this guy hasn't started a game since 2011, right? Like, his passing weapons are Michael Floyd, Josh Doxson, Jamison Crowder, and Jeremy Sprinkle. I don't want to hear it. This Jacksonville team has given up. They sparked Derrick Henry's, this late season barrage of touchdowns. 4 touchdowns from Derrick Henry in that game. A monster, a historical type performance from him. So I'm not putting Ballage on the same level as any of these guys. Quite frankly, we don't know how he's going to perform given a significant role. But if there's one player here, given how cheap he is, Ballage to me is definitely worth a dart throw in tournaments, and I don't see why not, especially being that, low scoring game, fine with me. The Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites at home. From a game script, predictive game script, because we never know how game script is going to play out. But from a game script standpoint, what we're seeing, how it should play out, it seems that it would favor Ballage, given that all season long, this team has been very, very, very hesitant to give Kenyon Drake the ball in large doses on the ground.
Yeah, it really does seem like you're going to get your shot. And when you're playing a guy sub 4K, if the volume is there, you kind of have to just live with the result, to be honest. If this guy gets 15, 20 touches and he busts, you really shouldn't beat yourself up about it. It's a pretty damn good spot.
Agreed. That's all I got from here, though, man. I don't have anything else.
Nope, get this out of here.
Do you have Miami defense, or are you going elsewhere?
I like the Dolphins defense. I think, Jacksonville's entire offense and team, honestly, as a whole, is just given up. So
Yeah,
you could do a lot worse than a $2,700 Dolphins defense at home.
I agree.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going then. If you guys have any questions in chat, feel free to hit us with them. We'll do our best to answer questions. Let's move to the next one here. Green Bay in New York, well, New Jersey, facing the Jets. This game, believe it or not, Rodgers and company are favored by only 3 points, Ben. What a turn for the worse this season has taken for the Green Bay Packers. Not pretty whatsoever. Yes, they're coming off. They had a big win against Atlanta after Mike McCarthy was fired, and then could not keep up with the Chicago Bears. Maybe things are, or maybe the tables are turning in the NFC North. It certainly seems to be that way, but we'll find out next year. Anyway, 3-point spread here, not significant, 47.5-point total, which, believe it or not, is the fourth highest total on this slate. Is this a game that intrigues you on either side? Are you looking at a Elijah McGuire? Are you Robbie Anderson? Let's start with the Jets and move over to the road team.
Yeah. So this is a game that if I get it right, it's going to probably determine my entire week. I really like this game. I like the Jets in particular. I think they win this game. Like those weapons, they're just not priced to where I think they should be, not based on talent, just based on where there's nobody left. So Elijah McGuire is going to get the backfield. Cannon's behind him, but he's really not a workhorse. Robbie Anderson, as inconsistent as he is, it does seem like he'll consistently get work here just, again, because of personnel. Then I'll just throw one more. Chris Herndon is not a bad punt tight end. He's getting some work. And honestly, the Packers as a whole, they're one of on the short list of teams, teams that I look to exploit in terms of motivation are teams that had high expectations and are already out. A garbage team that's already out, well, they're like the Niners. They're playing hard because you know what? They're young, they're motivated.
And they want to play spoiler here.
That's
they
right.
Want to play spoiler in games, yeah.
The Packers, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers.
Which against the Bears, a win over the Bears, not to say we expect it to happen, is definitely a confidence builder for a team that's had a dead season from the jump with all those injuries.
Absolutely. We saw it against Seattle last week.
Yep. And I was you called that, by the way. Nice one. I really thought Seattle flying high after a convincing win over the Vikings where they held them scoreless up until 2 minutes left. And I really thought that game would go in their favor, but it did not, man. It goes to show you the parity in the NFL, Absolutely. By the way. Right? I mean, just the stupid slogan every given Sunday. It really is true. I mean, like we saw the Eagles as 13.5-point dogs beat the Rams. We saw the Niners over Seattle. You just see so many upsets this year. It's made it tough at times for fantasy purposes, but the parity has also made it more interesting to watch as long as the refs aren't getting in the way. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's true. And teams get on like you don't want to play the Niners right now. You just don't.
It's crazy.
Like it's crazy to say that. But back to this game, I think the Jets. It's tough because there's a lot of risk with these guys. I acknowledge that, but I'm embracing it with this team. I think at home the weather is perfect here, and the Packers are just a team I think they can exploit. So I'm definitely going to be overweight on the Jets as a whole. Other side, real quick for me, it's keeping it simple. Obviously, Devontae Adams is a machine. He's going to have it seems like it's, the floor is 20 style. So going to be playing him when I can. Jamal Williams has control of that backfield. That's about it from the Packers side, but this is a game I certainly hope goes over because I have a lot of exposure.
Okay. I can dig it. Robbie Anderson to me is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's cheap. You're getting someone that is getting plenty of looks in the passing game, which is really all I care about, right? As long as, by the way, in his headshot, he looks so confused. If you ever look on draft, he looks like he has no idea where he is. It's really quite entertaining. But Robbie Anderson to me is somebody that can give you quality numbers. He's been targeted in the red zone, right? Like not just on deep balls, which you saw plenty of last week on that Saturday game, but also in the red zone where he scored. I like it. I like the upside here. I like your thoughts on Green Bay not being a team that wants to play spoiler. Aaron Rodgers is not, Aaron Rodgers is not like, yeah, let's prove to the league that we can be a someone. No,
Yep.
I mean, no, you blew it, right?
Yep.
Not to say it was all his fault, but he hasn't exactly had a spotless season either. I agree. It's an interesting spot here. Chris Herndon, that's tough. That's definitely tough, but I can see it with the position being so weak. I got somebody else though that I'll mention shortly,
Okay.
and McGuire. I guess with McGuire, let me just get it out of the way now. Let's just kill two birds with one. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that, am I? I think Peter came out with
That's a new
Sunday
Peter.
night. Yeah, there was you can't say grab the bull by the horns. You had to say grab the rose by its thorns. Um, I don't know. You would
All
think
right.
we'd have big. You think we have some bigger issues to worry about.
None.
But anyway, I'll try to be careful. I got a package being delivered, man.
Oh,
Amazon overnight. I did my Christmas shopping yesterday, and it's all arriving today. What a
you got it
beautiful thing.
close.
Yeah, but hey, it works.
Yeah, it does.
Uh, so okay, you've got guys like Tevin Coleman, Elijah McGuire. I'll use DraftKings pricing for reference because they are very similarly priced, right? So you got Tevin with no Ito Smith against the Carolina team that similarly, or even to a larger degree than the Packers, Ben,
Yep.
does not have anything to play for. They totally blew it. Cam Newton's done. So Coleman, McGuire, you got guys like Damian. I'm not Damian Williams. Jamal Williams in this game. You've got several running backs. Balaj. Like, who are your favorite cheap running backs right now? Is McGuire up there?
Yeah, he is up there for me.
Okay.
He's just a guy, and this is you have to. I don't know if acknowledging makes it better, but Elijah McGuire is a guy that I like. I think he could be really good. I've been waiting for him to get the work. He's getting it now, so there's no way I'm not gonna jump on there. I think the spot is good, and if he's truly who I think he could be, this is a vast underprice. So we'll see what comes of that. But Elijah McGuire is a guy that I've been excited to see what he can be if he gets the work. And late in the year, this is his opportunity.
All right. I can dig it. And it also doesn't hurt at all that McGuire has seen, 17 and 18 carries with 4 targets in back-to-back games,
Yeah. I mean,
So
I think to an extent, obviously, sadly, I've seen a lot of Jets. They have a blueprint, and now that Crowell is gone, they didn't alter it that much. So they're giving McGuire, I think, additional carries just because they don't want to radically shift the offense to more of a gadget guy and put too much on Darnold. So I do think that he'll get a lot of work here, regardless of game script, and we'll see what he does with it.
43 looks over his last 2 games. Has he been efficient? Not necessarily. His yards per carry leaves a lot to be desired, but they're going to keep feeding him the ball, and he faced 2 defenses that don't make life easy on running backs. Any interest in Green Bay? I'm pretty much, even Jamal Williams, I'm shying away here, and I think I can get better value at running back on guys that have more upside, on teams that run the ball more, and running backs that actually aren't named Jamal Williams, which means that they have some talent.
Yeah, it's I don't love it. I get it, because if he starts catching balls and maybe he's going to dominate this backfield, it can add up quickly. But like Marlon Mack is $100 more on DraftKings. I think I would go there, all things considered. Depending, if I have stacks of this game, obviously Jamal Williams is going to be involved in some of them. But Devontae Adams is at the top of the list by a large margin for the Packers, for good reason. He is Rodgers' first, second, third option, it feels like.
Yep. He absolutely is. That would be the guy that I target here as well. I guess, though, where do you prioritize him?
So that's where it's tricky. The good thing,
Very tricky.
part of the reason I like this game is that you can run it back with Devontae Adams and you're saving on the Jets side. So if the Jets do their part, the stack in terms of some of the salaries is not egregious. Whereas, this is one of the last games we're going to talk about, but the Saints, you stack up the Saints, well, you're going to have to surround them with punts. It's the opposite in this game. If you stack up this game, your one-offs are going to be higher priced guys. So that makes it easier to fit Devontae Adams. But obviously it's tough, because if you take him, it's hard to get a top-end running back like Zeke or a guy like AB or Michael Thomas.
All right. I agree. Do I like Adams? Absolutely. But kind of the conversation we had last week, always a phenomenal cash game play.
Yep.
Because you pretty much know, I don't want to say it, but man, he has been as consistent as they come, hands down, each and every week. Devontae Adams goes out there and gives you a big game, whether he's in the end zone or he's crossing 100 yards. He gets it done. I mean, he's got what 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns on the season. It's been a monstrous year for Devontae Adams, and he's once again firmly in play today. I get what you're saying on Williams, and I don't have an issue with it. He's not a guy that I feel like, and I don't, quote unquote, pay for. I feel like there are other guys above him at a similar price and below him at a much cheaper price that I can get similar or much better numbers from, and that's why I'm just not as high on Williams as others this week.
Fair enough.
Just
Yep.
just to explain where I'm at on that. All right, let's talk Cleveland and Cincinnati, and if you're all right to move on here. We've got a bad Bengals team. Hugh Jackson coming back to Philly or to Cincinnati. Honestly, I thought it was ridiculous. And I'm sure I'll get some hate for this, but I thought it was ridiculous that Baker Mayfield was all pissed about this. Like, look, he sucked as a head coach. Yes, no question. He went to a team in your division. Okay, but I don't know. I'm not going to crucify the guy for going back to work and not sitting at home. So
I mean, if it was I'm not a Hugh Jackson fan like most, but if it was a player and the player got cut and the Bengals signed him, would Baker really be mad? Like, you got to take your job offers when you get them, especially for
he got fired. He
That's what
didn't.
I'm
He
saying.
wasn't like, all right, boys, peace. I'm gonna pack up and head out yonder. Nah, you got fired.
He should be happy because now he sees him twice a year, and look what he's done for Cincinnati.
Exactly. So, point being, like, this is a spot where I would expect the Cleveland Browns to win, and actually, I expect them to win. I don't want to say easily, but this is a game that they should be able to handle. I mean, they are 10-point favorites here, Ben. The Cleveland Browns are 10-point favorites. T.Y. Hilton is active, by the way. So is Julio Jones, just so we all know. 10-point favorites, Ben. The Cleveland Browns, 44.5-point total here in Cleveland.
Never thought we'd see it. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard not to like that offense. The trick is going to be, and it's not either or, but do you lean to the running game with Chubb, or do you want to take a shot with Baker and the weapons on the outside? I'm making enough teams where I have a little of both. I think I come in slightly overweight on the passing game and slightly underweight on Chubb. It's nothing against him. There's so many running backs. You're not getting a discount on Chubb. I don't think you're overpaying either. He's just there, so he makes a fine play. But I'll talk about the passing game real quick and pass it to you. I like Baker, Njoku, obviously. Good tight end play. Callaway is the guy that I never get this guy right, but I'm going to try again. He always has that upside. Burner. Baker seems to give him some chances. So if you want to save from Landry, I think that's where I'm going. So yeah, Browns are in a good spot at home. They really should roll the Bengals, who are another team. They're just in it's over, beyond over, free for all for them.
It's been over, right?
Yep.
This is they've been in dire straits for a while now, and it's only continued to spiral downwards further. I am no doubt interested in this game. It's tough to say where though, right? I expect Cleveland to put up a good amount of points. It's so tough to say where. Nick Chubb, the price, you just pointed this out. It makes it a little difficult, but he's going to get work. Like he's definitely going to continue to get work. I think the price is high enough where he's not, one of the most popular players, especially given, Alvin Kamara coming down in price, Joe Mixon being similarly priced, right? Barkley being sub 8K. That actually makes Chubb a little bit more interesting to me. So he's there. It is tough, if in cash or whatever, playing him when he's priced that close to guys like Kamara and Barkley is difficult. But I mean, you're a 10-point favorite at home. I don't think the Chubb and Brown's defense pairing is all that crazy. I mean, you have to think about it as we flip to the other side here, unless there's anything else you had on Cleveland. Good. You've got Jeff Driscoll. You have no Tyler Boyd. Obviously, we have no AJ Green. I mean, we're talking about the receiving corps here being John Ross, Cody Core, Alex Erickson. Like, whoo, Dude.
It's bad.
Rough. And that's what concerns me even about Mixon, man, because they could be playing from behind so early in this game. We're both huge, huge fans of Mixon's fantasy production. Disclaimer,
Yeah,
not Mixon, Mixon apostrophe S fantasy production and play on the football field,
correct.
right? And
Uh,
he's the only guy they have.
Yeah, I think so. And this is a classic situation where it becomes at some point the volume isn't good enough when it's so inefficient to the point where there are no like if Tyler Boyd was there or a couple other guys, Mixon would still get. You can't get to the volume of he's going to get the ball every time. That's not how it works. So like he's at max volume regardless of who else is really out there. The problem is now it's hard to imagine the Browns not just saying we're going to stop Mixon basically at all costs and live with the rest because there's nothing else. So will he get chances? Yeah, I really worry about the ceiling when it's just a tough spot for him.
Yeah.
I have a little for what it's worth, just because he is the only guy, but I wish they had a couple more options to keep that defense more honest.
I I have a lot of Mixon in seasonal just because, he's been one of my main guys and you can't really sit him in a spot like that.
Hmm.
Uh, but in daily, I think I'm gonna probably get away from it. Yeah, the only hope I have is like, okay, it's still the Browns and they might still find a way to shoot themselves in the foot a couple times or enough times to allow Mixon to put some work in. And we actually against the Chargers, when this game was expected to be a rout, they were 13 or 14-point dogs. Mixon, of course, goes out there as 26 carries for 111 and a touchdown, and they just barely lose that game. So again, anything's possible, which is why I think, as you pointed out, having at least some exposure to him, it doesn't have to be a lot, but a little bit makes sense because he's just a talented enough back to in any game script, in any scenario, to put up a big game as we saw 2 weeks back. But that's about the most I can say on him here, or
Yeah.
anyone for Cincinnati for that matter.
Oh yeah, he's the only guy. I'm not messing around with anybody else.
No.
It's him or nothing.
Right. And even that is tough,
Yep.
even that is tough. Any interest in Cleveland defense? If you mentioned it, my apologies, but I have
No,
some of them.
you mentioned it, and I see that. They're not at the top of my list, but you just talked about say they do shut Mixon down, then what? Like this could be a situation where Driscoll is forced to pass to options that really are going to be overmatched. And at home, I have no problem with the Browns defense. So I will have some exposure. I like that call by you.
All right, sounds good. Let's talk about Dallas and Tampa Bay. Dallas coming off a game where they were blanked in Indianapolis by the Colts. It was a bad performance. The good thing is that Ezekiel Elliott, no matter what game, no matter where it is, no matter what day it is, no matter what the weather, is going to get a shit ton of work. No question. Happens every time, Ben. Uh, Man, I really like Zeke today. Not to say that this is a contrarian take by any stretch. I'm just throwing it out there among all of these, top priced guys. Look, Gurley's expected to play. He is a matchup where he can just destroy them. But is he 100%? Is he fully healthy? Uh, Saquon Barkley, they're huge dogs. He should still be in the passing game. Involved a lot. Sure, I get it. McCaffrey, no Cam Newton. That offense has sputtered like none other. I look at a guy in Elliott and just think, no matter what happens here, you're looking at if they go up early, 20 plus, potentially 30 carries. And then if this game's competitive, he has 21 targets in the passing game. This is one of the reasons going into the season I liked him so much, because you knew that he was going to be heavily involved as a pass catcher. And that's even after now Amari Cooper has arrived, right? Passing targets since week 10, 7, 8, 6, 6, 13, 18. For me, yes, it's tough to pay for him. He's expensive, but I do think Elliott is worth the premium today in this spot against a dreadfully bad Tampa Bay defense.
Yeah, I mean Zeke is. We were talking about Devontae Adams. Zeke is that for running backs. He just the floor is unbelievable. He's in my cash lineup basically anytime I can get him in without really tanking the rest of the lineup. So this is a spot anything can happen. You just talked about how, the NFL's been crazy this year. If Dallas loses this game at home, I would be stunned.
I would be stoked.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they lose. I'm not a Dallas fan. I hope they
I
don't
need
lose
them
in
to
the
lose.
sense I definitely have them in some teasers and whatnot because I just think they find a way to get this at home. Leading the way should be Zeke. Of course, he's expensive. He's going to be popular, but it's for good reason. I made room for him. He's just a guy that you want exposure to. He game script proof. The game script should favor him anyway, and he's just going to get his, barring an outlier performance.
I know. I don't know how he couldn't.
No, he's gonna.
So aside from that, though, what about Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott? We can talk about them together. We can talk about them individually. Dak Prescott, you've got a discounted price point here, 5,700 on DraftKings is obviously pretty cheap. 73 on FanDuel, which is pretty far down there as well, right? And then you have him also cheap on Yahoo Fantasy, where Dak's weighing in at actually, I guess he's not that. I thought he was cheaper than that, 32. No, that's I'm not paying for Dak there. I thought he was cheaper. He's more expensive than Andrew Luck on Yahoo. So no, thank you. I guess I got him mixed up. But what do you think of the passing game here?
Yeah, this is tricky. So obviously, the Cowboys as a whole are in a good spot. Amari, it's easy to say this now, but I really did believe he was one of the easiest fades last week in a while. He had come off it was a great performance, but it was also the most fortunate performance ever against the Eagles. And he crashed back to earth. Michael Gallup continuously, anytime I take a sliver, it's not working out. It's hard to go there, but he's still on the field a good amount. I'll say this. I get the play with Dak. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with him. I'm considering hedging, and this is just a personal thing, where I use him in cash and go way underweight in tournaments. Because I think he might have a middling game where he's somewhat effective. He gives you 15, 16 fantasy points, which is fine, but it's not tournament winning upside. And he's cheap enough that I could justify that play in cash.
I think so much of this comes down to how much can they and will they lean on Zeke?
Well, that's the thing. But I have one of the things I obviously wanted to look at, and it's Dak and Zeke can coexist, especially now that Zeke's doing
No
more in the
question.
passing game. So it's a little weird just because, if Dak is running, especially around the goal line, it's coming at the direct expense of Zeke. But there should be enough to go around in this game. More concerned about that kind of correlation in tournaments where you're looking for ceilings in big field tournaments, you need ceilings for most of your guys. It's hard for both of them to do that without them really laying it on Tampa.
Right. And by the way, I should rephrase that. What I mean is if you can just hand the ball to Zeke and let him run wild all game, then there won't be a whole lot of coexisting in that. You won't need to throw him 13 passes through the air, right? Or 8 in a game where you're playing from behind there is competitive. If this game isn't competitive, I think, it obviously, and I'm not saying anything anyone doesn't already know, but it benefits Ezekiel Elliott and takes away from Zach or Dak. So that's my only concern here. I think Amari is in, and I agree. I didn't have any Amari last week either. It was a spot where it seemed like a pretty easy fade.
Yeah.
Elliott this week, really like him. I have him ahead of, in terms of just a priority, saying, let's say you don't. Let me ask you this: how do you prioritize these guys between Zeke, Dak, and Amari? You're playing one lineup. How would you configure it?
Oh, by far Zeke for me.
Yeah.
Zeke is the cowboy I want. I get if you want to go against the grain and either implement Dak and Amari with him, or say, you know what, maybe Zeke has just a middling game for him, and I'll go with the passing attack. But that's for me a lot more aggressive. Zeke is the guy that I want.
Sure, and worth pointing out, it's not insane to think that Zeke, Dak, and Cooper could all have decent games here.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely not a wild thought. But now Cooper's price is up there. Zeke is the second most expensive running back, so all of that definitely plays into the picture here. All right, you want to? I don't know. I have nobody from Tampa. Maybe you have someone I'm missing, but
not really. I mean, I still think we saw this last week. Against the Ravens, you can use Mike Evans because he's a giant target, and can he run it back? Sure, but that's a lot of risk. I don't have much of anyone on Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, I softened on Jameis. I look to him. It's a tough spot for that offense as a whole. I think if you're building enough lineups and you want to go against the grain, maybe you do load up because it is Jameis and he'll keep throwing. But all in all, I think there's just better spots out there.
Yeah, and Deshaun Jackson's active as well.
Hmm.
So it just adds another unnecessary wrinkle into this offense that I think for now I'm going to avoid. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
All right. Hey, by the way, a couple things to point out here before we move on to the final grouping of games. We talked a little bit about Yahoo Fantasy. If you've yet to get over there, they still got these contests open. The $20 entry, $1 million NFL baller, $250,000 in guaranteed overlay here. Obviously, kicks off at 1 p.m. They have that 8 p.m. game in there. Only 10 entries max. So you're not going to be going against guys with 150 lineups. There's still 6,000 spots left here. Really nice contest. First place takes home. How much does first place take home? Why can I not remember? It's
I
a
think it's
decent
100.
amount. I think it is 100, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
100. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
100K, and just a bunch of other contests that they're running on here. Like if you're not trying to throw it in that, you got the $10 75K NFL 75K guaranteed, 10K to first. That's still got some spots open and some free contests as well. So if you haven't checked out Yahoo yet, do so and sign up using the promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. You get a $30 deposit bonus on all deposits, $30 or more. So it's a win-win situation. Get in here. A ton of overlay on these. They're doing it intentionally, so we know it's going to happen. You don't have to worry about it. And some of these haven't even been filling. So you've got the guaranteed overlay plus more because they're not filling the contests up. So use the code AWESEMO, get $30 deposit bonus on $30 or more, and hopefully one of us is at the top of the leaderboard by the end of tonight. Also, it's the 24 days of giveaway here at awesemo.com. Ben, you know what that means. We're giving stuff away every day, every single day. And up until Christmas Day, we're giving away a monthly all access pass to one lucky winner. And that means all you have to do is hit that thumbs up, like this video, and comment down below after the show ends, and you'll be entered to win. You could do it on any show throughout the day. You're entered each time you do it. And on Christmas Day, we will be giving away a premium all access pass value of $700. Our gifts from us to you at Awesemo. You like the video, you comment down below, and you have a chance to win some really cool stuff because we love you guys and we appreciate you. All right, Ben, let's keep it moving here. Minnesota and Detroit. This is a game that I really don't have a whole lot of interest in. Maybe we're on a different page. Let's talk about it.
No, sadly, we're not. It's just an ugly game. The Vikings last week, I loved that spot for them, and it felt like it worked out, and I still didn't get there, and that was just a killer. They hung a ton of points on the Dolphins, but it's just tough. Dalvin Cook, obviously, he was good, very good, but the passing attack was awful. Diggs got an early touchdown. Thielen was non-existent, and Cousins is just, that pick six was awful. So I really don't have much. I think you can, of course, go back to a guy like Thielen who's, he's been an afterthought. He's been bad, but he's still a guy that can get involved. Detroit is not a good defense at all. And then on the other side, I really am not messing around. Kenny Golladay, yeah, you can go to him in volume, but it's just not a game I feel too comfortable targeting. I wouldn't be stunned to see this be pretty ugly.
I think so too. I wouldn't be surprised to see Detroit win this game. Actually, they've been terrible. I mean, look, they've been awful, right? This is not a good team. I was on Twitter looking at some of these comments from Lions fans, and they are just it's a mess, man. Things just aren't getting better in Detroit when it comes to this football team. Matthew Stafford's active. Divisional game. I won't say Detroit wins outright, but I do think this game stays competitive. I'll say that much, Ben. I think it stays close, and I just don't have faith in Cousins right now. If anybody, I'd get some low exposure to Dalvin Cook, and hope that he can continue playing well. And I think since we've seen DiFilippo gone, that the coordinators changed. Last week we saw a concerted effort, even though it was a home game against the Dolphins, saw a concerted effort to run the football. We saw Cook with 19 carries, Latavius Murray with 15. They just ran the ball a ton, and it worked out, which concerns me even more so if Detroit's offense continues to sputter and they can't move the ball. Cousins attempted 21 passes, and that passing volume concerns me because it's a ripple effect throughout the rest of the team and really only helps the run game. So I don't think you need to go here, and it's a tough one for me to get on board with anyone.
Yeah, no, well said. I think it's always concerning when you see a blueprint like that and it's effective, because the Vikings going into this week, they're going to want to do what they did last week, and that was run the ball a lot. So that it kills that upside. Some of those receivers. Now, again, are they talented enough? You can always look, but it's not guys that I felt comfortable really making a ton of room for.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, do you want to move on then?
Yeah, no, we got some good games left, so let's do it.
This one probably not what you're referring to. New England and Buffalo. If it is, please forgive me and correct me.
No.
Yeah, Patriots 13.5-point favorites, 45-point total here. Buffalo's got a 16-point implied total. Look, this will probably sound crazy, but Buffalo plays them tight. Even earlier this season, right? New England ends up covering because I saw some of the worst coaching ever in this game. You would think that Sean McDermott and other coaches would have learned from what Doug Marrone did against them, from what the Falcons did against them in the Super Bowl. You don't take your foot off the gas. You don't punt the ball back down by, I think they were down by 5 or 6 points midway through the fourth quarter at the 50-yard line, and they punt the ball back. New England scores, and then New England scores again. They cover. It went from being a 1-possession game to like a 3-possession game within the course of 4 minutes, all because you got conservative. You thought, we'll get the ball back. It didn't happen. Now, granted, Brady hasn't looked good, but it was just awful coaching from Sean McDermott in a game where you can't be conservative against Belichick. You just can't do it. It's burned the team so many. The only reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl is because Doug Peterson said, screw it, we're going 4th and 1. We're going to have our tight end throw to our quarterback on 4th down at the goal line. You have to do that. Hopefully they learn their lesson. We'll see. Point being, however, is that Buffalo is at least playing competitive football. Josh Allen still has a ways to go, but he's the best quarterback they've had in there that can actually keep games close and can make a big impact, unlike Tyrod, who was more so just a game manager that didn't turn the ball over a lot. What do you think about this game, just in terms of the competitive nature of it? Do you think the Patriots come out there and blow their doors off after that ugly, ugly loss to Pittsburgh? Or do you think that loss to Pittsburgh is a sign of things to come, and that Brady and company may not be the same offense that we remember from seasons past?
I think I wish it was the latter, but I'm still not overly concerned. Them in Foxborough is a different animal. I would expect them to come out focused, motivated, maybe lean on this 3-headed monster at running back, get Gronk involved and just kind of take control of the game. We'll see. These 2 games, the Patriots should come into the playoffs rolling because they have a super soft end of the year here with the Bills and the Jets. So it's not a game that I really love. You mentioned Josh Allen. Obviously, I love him in life, but I don't think it's a great spot. I think the Patriots defense could have plenty of success there, even if he is throwing to try to keep them in it. And then on the Patriots side, it's just tough because, someone like James White, I'm looking to, and I get it, and I want to take a shot, but my God, you got to get him right within this team, whether it's Burkhead, whether it's Sony Michel. So it's just not the best spot on the whole, though I do think the Patriots win today and look pretty good.
A lot of talk and chat about Isaiah McKenzie. This team lost like every capable running back that isn't even a running back but might run the ball. I mean, everyone was down last week. It was insane. It was just insane. And then he gets carted off the field. That seems to be a minor injury, like cramping, and now he's back to full practice and he's going to play. Doesn't even have an injury designation. Meanwhile, on the other side, Josh Gordon continues to struggle with his addiction. He's done. I don't know if he'll ever play again. How many chances can you give the guy is a question for another day. But a lot of questions, a lot of talk and chat about McKenzie. What's the thought here? What's the thought process, Ben?
I get it. You know, if I do take a stab with a Buffalo receiver, I like McKenzie over Foster for what it's
Me
worth.
too.
Um, it's tough though. You know, I liked last week I was heavy on him, and then he got carted off. That was a bizarre situation.
Yeah, didn't
But
help.
it certainly didn't help. And you're right. Yeah, you know, they were down so many guys. It's just tough. I don't know how big the ceiling is, and that's just because I'm not sure exactly where the Bills finish in this game in terms of, you know, are they able to get out and push the Patriots a little just to keep them honest, or does it really become a, you know, a 28-14-ish kind of game? I worry about that a little. So not a guy, again, I'm not prioritizing him, but if I'm in a jam and I need a cheap receiver, I think you could do worse than a guy who's going to be in a good game script and should see some targets.
All right, fair enough. I think for New England, by the way, just for me, I echo everything you say. You know, Edelman continues to get a ton of looks. Josh Gordon's not playing.
Hmm.
Uh, like I don't have an issue with him, but I don't see myself going there here either. James White would be the one guy that you throw darts at because of his price point, and we know he has the upside. But that backfield's also fully healthy now. Not to say that he isn't still going to get passing down work, but you know the 3 or 4 targets that Burkhead takes away from in the passing game doesn't help him either. So there's caveats kind of to all of these guys, which kind of sucks. Let's move on. We got a few good games to get to, and I don't want to miss out on time. By the way, if you want to check out a free week of Awesemo.com and you haven't won the sweepstakes, our Awesemo 24 days of giveaway, just use Game Plan Show, all one word, as a promo code when you sign up. Make sure you select the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. Click join now on the homepage of Awesemo.com. Select your plan, select the all access with Fantasy Cruncher add-on, and then when you check out Game Plan Show, one word, you get a free week, free of charge. Nothing, no hidden prices, no hidden fees. And then you can check it all out before you try it. It's well worth it. We hope to see you there. Game Plan Show, one word. Carolina, Atlanta, no Cam Newton. Instead, you know who we got? We got Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke.
Your
And
boy.
my boy.
Nah. Old Dominion.
My boy.
Yeah, he's that'll be fun.
I don't think I've ever even talked about him before.
No, I don't know why you would. It's a situation. Do you have any interest in him?
He's so cheap, but we've talked about it, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but with how flat quarterback pricing is, is it worth it? I don't know if it's worth it.
I have
I
zero.
don't think, like, Andrew Luck is 6,200 on DraftKings. Yes, I get it, 2,200 more, but there are still cheap quarterbacks. Dak's 50. I don't know. Maybe it's tough, but 4K, yes, 4K is very cheap, and Atlanta's defense isn't good, so there is that.
Yeah, no, I again, this is a situation I get. If someone wants to play him, more power to you. My lineups did not fall that way.
Me neither.
There's too many unknowns for Carolina. I didn't feel I'm not there. And that extends to Christian McCaffrey, who's amazing, and I get it. It's just I wanted as much Zeke as I could get, and there were a couple other pivots, Kamara being the main guy that I wanted over C-Max. So I'll have to live with that. I have some Tevin Coleman. It is what it is. You know, he's in a good price point. He's the only guy back there. I think he's in a pretty good spot. But other than that, I'm not going to Julio. I didn't even think he was going to play, to be honest. I thought they might shut him down. Do you have anything else on the other side? It's not a great game, despite being pretty juicy in terms of bad defenses.
I do like Tevin quite a bit.
Okay.
I do like Tevin Coleman here. Ado Smith is on the IR. Tevin Coleman, I expect to get good work here, and it's a game where I think Atlanta could go up and take an early lead. I feel like this is a Carolina team that after last week, that was their. I feel like that was they took their last breath. You know,
they're done. Yeah.
They tried to get their head above water. They failed. They drowned, and now they're at the bottom of the ocean. So I think Atlanta tramples them. You know, look, it's not to say Atlanta's got much to play for, but at least they didn't just totally. What did they lose? 7. Carolina lost 6 or 7 straight. I mean, just a total disaster. The wheels fell off, and everything went to hell. I do like Tevin Coleman here. I think he's very, very discounted. 48 on DraftKings. Yahoo, he's like $13 or $14. He's really cheap there. I expect 18 or so touches, maybe more from him. Julio, I actually do like in tournaments just because the Q tag, people are concerned, and he's got as much talent and upside as anybody on here. So Julio in tournaments I like as well. But I don't think I'm going to McCaffrey here. And I think that's pretty much it in this game for me. I have other running backs I like over McCaffrey, and it's a tough time to target this Atlanta or this Carolina squad for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah, it is what it is with a game like this. There's just a lot of unknowns surrounding both of these teams.
Right. I do like Tevin though and Julio in tournaments, but that's about where I'm at. You'd think early in the year that this would be a game we'd target heavily, but that's not the case. Things change throughout the year. All right, Ben, San Francisco and Chicago. You talked about San Francisco not being a team you necessarily want to play right now. I don't disagree. They're only 4-point dogs here. They're 4-point dogs at home, 44-point over under. Give me your breakdown of this game.
Yeah, no, they're I think playing well, but you know what? I think that actually helps from a fantasy perspective. Trubisky and the gang. It's not going to be a pushover where they can lean on Jordan Howard, and that makes me not hate targeting a different kind of QB wide receiver in Trubisky to Allen Robinson. I do have some of that this week. I don't think it's going to be popular, and I think that they're going to need to score to win this game. The Niners. Not that they're the most prolific offense, but at home, even against this tough defense, I think they do enough to force Chicago's offense to have to be good enough to win this game. I'm not saying that the Niners win it. I'm not nearly as high on them as I was last week, but I do think that you can roll out some Bears players and feel pretty good that it's not just going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, a lot of hate on the owl picture, Ben, in chat. A lot of hate on the owl picture.
Really?
Fade the owl. Yeah, a lot of disrespect, man. A lot of disrespect.
That's this Snowy Owls, Dumb and Dumber classic right there. I don't understand. That hurts.
Yeah. If you're not understanding where that's coming from, and if you're not a Dumb and Dumber fan, get the fuck out of here, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on now. Come on.
Pair of Hooters you got there. Yeah, I mean it's come on now. But hey, I respect that though. That's why we love chat.
I don't. All right. Do you want to keep moving? Just give me the guys you like in this because I want to get to these last two and I don't want to run out of time.
Sure. Yeah, no. So that's pretty much all. Like I said, Trubisky, Allen Robinson. I think you go with Tariq Cohen, obviously, always home run upside.
All right. Sounds good. Arizona, LA Rams. It looks like Todd Gurley will play. Rams are massive favorites here. Last I looked, like 14 points, 14 and a half points. Arizona's defense is not bad, and Goff has not looked good. But I don't, dude. Honestly, this is a game that other than if you want to run out, I don't have a huge amount here. Patrick Peterson's still good. Like I don't know. This is a tough spot for me. I'm not loving this game.
Yeah, me neither, to be honest. We had on the From A to B show, someone in chat, and I forget the name, so forgive me, but they mentioned Gerald Everett, and I think that was a real sharp call. He's seeing some good volume for where he's priced if you want to punt tight end. Other than that, though, yeah, you can always go to Woods. Gurley's a mystery now. I liked him, and I was thinking that he was going to be a really good leverage spot, but this injury stuff, even though it looks like he's going to play, has me very concerned. It's definitely lessened my excitement.
All right. Yeah, I feel like.
You think he gets a full workload? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, what I was going to say with Everett is, I talked about him yesterday on the Sirius show, and 14 targets over his last two games, 7 and 8. The only concern is they played from behind in both of those. Mm-hmm. If Gurley's not fully healthy, I think it helps Gerald Everett. If he comes out there and they just feed Gurley, especially with Goff's given his recent struggles, it's tough. But yeah, I don't know. I think Gurley is a tournament play and here's why. I think you can go to Zeke and expect similar or better production at a similar or cheaper price point. That's where I'm at. All right. Let's close it out here. Pittsburgh and New Orleans, and then we'll turn it over to the Live Before Lock crew. What have you got here? Saints 6.5-point favorites. I think this game stays a lot closer than that. It's 6 points now, 53-point total. Kind of a tougher one to target, even though it has such a high total.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying a premium for all these guys. It's the best game objectively on the slate, but you're paying really expensive prices. I'm not with you there. I think the Saints coming home, they haven't been home in like a month. that they get back to what they were doing early in the year. I think they absolutely roll them here. And I like Kamara. Obviously, you can fit these guys. Go ahead. The Juju thing, it looks like he's going to play. It's still dicey. So, you can run it back. It's just, once again, this is one of the most expensive stacks on the slate, and that makes it tough to fill out the rest of your lineup.
It does. It does. I'll have some Antonio Brown. I think it could be a tougher spot for Jalen Samuel. Kamara is cheap, so you have that in there as well. But I'm not going to Michael Thomas. I'm just saying, and we got to go, but it's not a game that I love as much as I thought I would when you see that high total in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to carry a ton of ownership, but
New
we'll
Orleans
see.
defense has also been very good. I actually think this game goes under.
Okay. No, and you'll get good leverage if it does.
Anything else, Ben? We about hit the end of the road here.
No, just I think the last thing is keep an eye on the status of Gurley in those 4 p.m. time slot, because if that changes, you're going to want to alter your lineups even when these tournaments are live.
Agreed. Hey, best of luck to all of you guys. Have a great holiday, a Merry Christmas.
Yep.
And it's been a great year. We'll see you back here after Christmas on the game plan for Week 17. Good luck today and have a great holiday.